So I'm back with round 2 of my interview with Tom Fisher. So Tom, let's pick up where we left off last time. And you were talking about how the current pandemic, the coronavirus, is currently affecting what's going on at the county there. You mentioned that you guys have been doing things that you've never done before, that you couldn't even imagine having done before. And everybody's being thrown out of their comfort zones. Can you give us a couple examples of some of the things that you're doing with GIS for the county now?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, as with a lot of county government, there is what I call the keep the lights on GIS portion of what we do. And that is the day-to-day, land records maintenance, public works maintenance, things like that. Have we gone through and dabbled in the environments of our GS Online and, Hub, Portal, the enterprise, that type of thing? Yes. But, they've been sort of one-off projects that we've done for different departments within the organization. And when coronavirus hit, we were sort of thrust into a different dynamic here at the county. We had to actually, some of my staff actually had to go under closure pay, which means that they were at home, sheltering in place. Others were actually able to do work from home. And we kind of came, as part of this, emergency operations centers and Board of Health, this idea that, and quite honestly, I think Esri's kind of nudged this as well in a lot of their marketing. Stand up a hub, use GIS, these GIS capabilities to really sort of support your local, response to this pandemic. So that's what we did. We kind of put all the other sort of maintenance, on sort of the back burner. And we didn't stop them completely, but put them on the back burner and really thrust ourselves into this idea that collection of data, presentation of data, putting together a resource or a hub to inform constituents of people in the county, spatial aspects of what, this coronavirus actually has sort of done with us and help people adapt to it. So we stood up a hub site and the dashboards. I think a lot of that you've seen and a lot of other people have seen those as well, with county impact, state impact, national impact of, cases and deaths and, recoveries. But it's more than just that. It's more than just the people that are in or dealing with this actual coronavirus within them, as far as the illness is concerned. But we also have those other sort of tangential effects of this, and that is school children that are no longer in school, but that need a meal, a lunch, or breakfast. So what we did was we took the data for all of the schools providing free lunch and free breakfast to students, and we mapped those and put them on the hub. The other thing is that a lot of underserved children within Cuyahoga County don't have access to broadband internet service. It's surprising in today's day and age that is the case, but it is. And so what we did was we mapped all of the free and open Wi-Fi hotspots within the county. We actually published hand maps to hand out at the school lunch program. So any student that was getting breakfast or lunch could actually identify a place that they could take their Chromebooks or laptops and hook up to the internet and do coursework, albeit from the parking lot. But at least it gave them access to internet, and we were able to provide that service. And the other thing that we've decided to do is identify where the testing locations were, emergency response, so fire, police, ambulance, first responder locations, and then hospitals and urgent care clinics. We mapped those as well. And then the other thing that we decided to do was take the local newspaper here actually was publishing all of those restaurants that were doing carry out or delivery. And they listed them all, on a page on their website. And we thought, well, that's great if you know what you're looking for. But what if you're, in a specific location and want to see what's available, location-wise? So we decided to map all of those and put all, is it Grubhub or is it Uber Eats or, what are some of the other services that do delivery? what are their hours of operation? Is it a limited menu? Is it a full menu? That kind of thing. So we mapped all of those within Cuyahoga County, and then we also put together a small little survey that if anybody, if a restaurant owner got to the website and said, hey, I don't see my location on there, I want to enter it in, gives them the opportunity to add that to it, to our sort of crowdsourced map. And that's more from the economic impact standpoint, right? So people are at home, and there are places out there that are still doing good work, making great food, and there's people out there that are willing to deliver it to you with all the safety precautions, in place. We thought that would be important for us to do as well, and we're constantly expanding this offering. So it's not something that we really, again, 6 months to a year ago, somebody said, hey, you're going to be putting up a GIS hub site in response to a worldwide pandemic. I would have thought you were crazy. But yeah, here it is, and it's sort of not in the comfort zone, but definitely something that was necessary. And so we adapted and we moved towards it. So I'm really proud of my guys, for stepping up and taking the initiative and working on this. So.
It is. I'm also really glad to hear that you guys had the foresight to think of what kind of mediums you should be doing this for, like mapping where there's free Wi-Fi and free broadband for people and putting that on a paper map. It's like when back in the day when you used to call your internet company when your internet was out and you'd get this message, did you know you could check things on our website? It's like, right. Do you know my internet is out and I can't, and I don't have a smartphone yet? So that happens more often than not with a lot of things. So I'm really glad you're able to take a look at the whole picture and be like, okay, these people can't get access to this, and they're not going to be able to get it in this format that we normally do. Let's put it in this type of format and put that out in places where they're going to be, like picking up a school lunch or breakfast. So I'm really glad to hear that.
We're app makers.
Thinking of these details.
Makers. Yeah, I mean, we're app makers, right? I mean, that's really what we want to be is in the programming development side of things. But there is a need for tactile mapping still, for those that don't have the internet. So, again, times change, and yes, you need to adapt to, the internet age, but you can't lose sight of where you came from and what the practicality of actually putting together a paper map, what that actually means for people. So
there are times when it comes in really handy. I know I was recently, in January, we went on a vacation, and where we were, my battery was draining on my phone incredibly quickly. So it was really handy to have a paper map because I knew that within an hour, my phone was going to be dead and I wouldn't be able to pull up Google Maps or whatever I was using to help locate something. So I definitely think, you can't get rid of paper maps altogether. No. It'd be nice, but things happen. Sometimes you need a backup.
Right. It's adaptability, right? It's the understanding what the need is and filling the need. That it's not one size fits all for every situation. So, understanding what the situation is, what it calls for, and doing what needs to get done to make it happen. So, yeah.
Very true. So another thing I wanted to ask you about is actually about the county. You had mentioned to me last year how you had done specific branding for the county GIS. And now you've got your little logo everywhere.
Absolutely.
How did that come about, and what did you hope that would do, and what has it actually done for your department?
So let me take a step back and say that, I came to the county by way of an organization in Appalachia, Ohio. As many people, I'm sure, listening to the podcast would know that Appalachia is an underserved, very poor area, of the country, spans many states. In fact, I grew up in Appalachia, and most people don't even think of it, but Pittsburgh is the largest city in what are designated as the Appalachian counties of the United States. And so this underserved area, I decided that there was a definite deficit in technology and GIS, and I saw an opportunity to bring together these counties in Appalachia, 32 of them, together and work with each other collectively and collaboratively to start to develop GIS skills, bring the technology in, that type of thing. And as a part of that, we branded ourselves as a nonprofit. We called ourselves the Appalachian Ohio Geospatial Data Partnership. it was a great name, very appropriate, but we thought, you know what, we need to brand ourselves. We need to actually have an identity so that people can, know who we are, what we stand for, mission statement, what are our values, that kind of thing. And so I put together with a team of GIS professionals in that area, we put together some branding, and it did amazing things for us. We had a website, web presence, promoted what we were doing. We went out and received well over $100,000 in grant money from the FGDC, from the state of Ohio, again, to fulfill that mission of data standardization, data partnership, bringing technology in to the underserved area of Ohio. And so that really, that sort of educated me again and gave me perspective on things. And when I came to Cuyahoga County, I thought, it's the same thing here. If we want to be recognized or known, we need to have advocates for us, or people that will say, hey, do you know about this county GIS department? Also, have this brand and have this thing that people can remember. So I actually made up stickers and handed them out to folks and said, hey, with the GIS department. And the branding looks very similar to the county brand. It's just that it's actually sort of a subset, a sub-branding, I guess, if you will, of the county brand. We actually use the county brand as well. It's a way to sort of build an identity for the group, and it really was a rallying point for my staff, right? At least it was something that they were proud to actually have. Here's this brand, and this is who we work for, and this is what we stand for. Put it out on social media. It really kind of gave an identity. It's sort of like think of it as like a flag for a country, sort of a beacon or a way to actually look and rally around that identity, Enterprise GIS Department. The aspect of it is a lot of times people will say that you need to have an advocate above you. Well, I'll tell you, having an advocate beside you and below you does wonderful things as well. So anytime you can tell your story to, an entry-level person, somebody that is a peer with you, or somebody that's above you, tell that story, because it's GIS and geospatial and location intelligence is a very compelling story to tell, and they will take your message forward as well. And it spreads the good word, gives you a lot of recognition so that you can continue to do that great work. I'm not a person, and none of my staff are either. We're not looking for the attention, so to speak. We're just working to help use our technology to help other people, right? To help convey your message or get data out to the public, citizen engagement, that type of thing. And so that's really why I put this brand together, was so that people can easily identify who we are and what we do, and come to us when they need assistance in this area. So that's really that I think is in a nutshell the reason why I did it.
That's really interesting. Have you had anything happen with these underserved areas where there's like mistrust with what you're doing, and they're like, are they very open to what you're doing for them, or are they kind of like, we don't know?
Right. So always, there is always an element of distrust, and I think what is distrust is ignorance, and so what we do is educate. Right. Yeah, we're very sensitive. I mean, let's take COVID, for example. When it comes down to mapping an actual location of a COVID victim, we don't do that. There's HIPAA regulations, but it's also a violation of somebody's privacy. So we generalize, and we take that seriously. And so educating folks on our ethics and what we're doing as far as mapping is concerned, I think that goes a long way to build trust. And with trust, and the other thing too is that what they say, it takes a lifetime to build trust, but it takes only seconds to wash it away. Always do what you say you're going to do, right? Never overpromise and underdeliver. You always underpromise and overdeliver, right? Make sure you listen to folks too, and understand what their concerns are about this technology, right? I think some folks you probably never will get to and help them understand. But there are a lot of people that are out there that are they want to know more. And so if you spend the time to sit down and educate them on what the technology is and what it's capable of doing and what it shouldn't do, I think you build a lot of trust with those folks, and they become, again, advocates of what you're doing. If you can show them how it helps people, find Wi-Fi hotspot locations, or find a lunch, breakfast meal drop, location, or, help the local business owner with their, takeout and delivery. That's the story that we want to tell, is about how the technology is helps. We're not here to actually hurt. So,
can you talk a little bit more about kind of what you went through when you were first getting into GIS, and kind of how the industry has changed a little bit from then to now? Because obviously there's been some huge leaps and bounds. You mentioned before that you had started on ArcInfo, and we are now going into ArcGIS Pro,
right?
2 point something now. So
what is
there's
that,
been a lot of change.
Right. The Thin client, right? The whole, it's all browser based. You can do ArcGIS online, and it's all on the internet. And the cloud. What is the cloud? Well, it's it's your stuff stored on somebody else's computer. Yeah, it has changed tremendously. I will say that when I was first starting off, doing C++ programming and Visual Basic and Pascal and Cobalt and Fortran and all those other languages, even that has come, to where a point where you don't do command line anymore. It's all menu-based, menu-driven, but you have the flexibility to actually do HTML programming or Python scripting or things, like that, sort of to help augment, the work that you're doing in GIS. But the fact that it's all modular-based too. I mean, in Hub right now, instead of having to script or code your whole HTML, it's drag and drop, right? It's like a WordPress site. I think GIS, where it used to be, it took you 6 months of deep use in ArcInfo command line to actually have a good grasp of the technology and its capabilities. Now it's it's come to a place where it's very pervasive, where it's the Google mapification of GIS, where everybody can have a map, an electronic map or digital map in front of them, and can print that off. The same with GIS technology. The fact that ArcGIS Online, it has sort of the, for anybody that's it doesn't want to do any programming, they can go in there and actually make a map and put together some really neat applications pretty quickly. But if you want to go in there and really fancy it up, you have a lot of the latitude with the programming, and scripting Python to really do some pretty amazing things with that. So it really is a technology for all levels, in my opinion. And I think it's something that, I'd like to see the capabilities, distributed to where everybody has those capabilities of doing sort of the same, doing mapping. There's a lot of Power BI and Tableau and a lot of these other technologies that are coming out that are using sort of big data, but then are actually allowing people to display that spatially. I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. I think it really sort of helps educate people on what it is that we're doing, right? We're really sort of data scientists, and analysts. We're not map makers anymore, although that is an aspect of some of the things that we do, but, we're so much more than just, cartographers and geographers. We're really immersed in the IT aspects of things, programming, again, analytics, I'll say that 3 times because I think that's really sort of where this whole thing is. It's spatial analytics, data scientists, big data scientists. How do you maintain the, and manage data? One of the things that I say is that you can build a database. That's only half the problem. The other half the problem is maintaining it. So data is only as good as the last time it was updated or maintained. I think people lose sight of that, right? It's like, oh yeah, we've got this great data set. Okay. When was the last time you updated? It was in 6 months. Well, then it's not a great data set. Then I mean, it's an outdated data set, is what it is, and you got to keep up on it. You got to keep current. So, but yeah, I mean, the technology has done crazy leaps and bounds from the early '90s when I was in the industry, or when I first started out in the industry, and actually I had this decision to make, and I mentioned MapInfo earlier. I was in the MapInfo environment. And I made the decision. I said, listen, there's a fork in the road, and I'm going down this MapInfo way. But a lot of people are in this ArcInfo platform. So what I did was I jumped back over. I kind of came back into the Arc GIS side of the house, and been here ever since. But that doesn't mean that I can't, bring up the Tableaus and the Power BIs and all the other, mapping applications that are currently being thrust upon us, and learn those as well and be informed as to how those integrate and work with the technology that majority of us use and love.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're sticking with just the Esri suite of products, there's still learning to do because they constantly change things. Coming out with ArcGIS Pro, for example, is completely different than ArcMap for desktop. It's you're always evolving and building on what you know. So whether it's a completely new different suite of software or just the same software upgrading stuff, we're gonna have to do that anyways. You actually, if you're not every month learning, on a webinar or in some sort of training to understand what the evolution of the next step in the technology is, then you're really falling behind. So definitely, very much so.
stay current on the webinars, the meetups, read the blogs, stay on LinkedIn, immerse yourself in it. Again, it's about being resourceful, right? Finding those resources to keep yourself current on the latest technologies, because the web map builder or web app builder is now being called Experience Builder, I believe, and so it's a completely different look and feel. Even ArcGIS Online has changed. The map interface is being changed, and they give you the opportunity to go out there and, hey, do you want to see the beta version? You want to test this out? Do you want to? And if you don't feel comfortable there, you jump back over to the old version. But yeah, it's constantly changing, and so you have to stay up on the latest technologies in the Esri space, but everything, right? I mean, look at Microsoft and the all the things that they're putting out. Excel, PowerPoint, Word, those have changed tremendously since my days in the early 90s. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do with those now, and they're all integrated.
You don't have that paperclip anymore.
Yes, exactly. Thank goodness. He was very annoying.
Yes.
So no, it is, and it's constantly changing and evolving. If you're in technology, you can become a dinosaur pretty quickly if you just kind of sit there and let the world pass you by. Yeah. So,
what would you say to somebody who's they're kind of interested in the industry, but it's a little bit scary because there's stuff like programming that they would have to do, or web maintenance, or there's an aspect of it they're not sure about? What would you say to somebody, who's interested but who's a little bit scared? And how would you help them overcome? Like, I know, for example, I didn't really want to touch anything to do with programming when I first got into GIS. I liked it because I can make maps. But you want me to program or code something? No. I'm not going to do that. Eventually, my fear of that got obliterated, and now I can do that no problem. But there's definitely a very real, I think, block for a lot of people from even getting in or going further because they've decided this is big and scary.
And again, it was a saying that was I can't remember who I heard this from, but I think it really speaks to what you're talking about, and that is, you have to push your boundaries, right? You have to go outside of those boundaries, because once you do, and it's exactly what you did. You said, I really didn't want to do programming, but you did it. You thrust yourself into it, and maybe the first time metaphorically, you fell down and scraped your knee, right? But you got up, you put a Band-Aid on it, started at it again, right? And then every time you did it, you became more comfortable with it, right? To the point where now it's old hat, right? It's something that you feel very comfortable with. And now you're on to the next thing to challenge yourself with or expand your boundaries on. I think it's, change is very, I'm not sure, how to say this, but say people fear change. And I think people don't necessarily fear change. I think they fear quick change. I think if change works slowly and methodically, then I think people are able to adapt and modify to that. The same with learning a new skill. One of the things that I think most people are most afraid of is public speaking, right? My feeling on that is that, you fear it, but if you do it enough times, it's not that you feel comfortable doing it, but it is, I guess it doesn't cause you as much consternation, right? I mean, you become sort of practiced at it. And so what I do with my staff is that when I go to make a presentation, I invite them to come with me. I have them help me put the presentation together and deliver it. And then I give them a small speaking role, in the presentation, whether it's a demonstration or here, you go ahead and present this aspect of the program. Just to kind of help them, the old saying is learn how to crawl, walk, and run. The same thing there, right? A good leader will actually help you to sort of slowly, as a young person, in the field, to help you kind of bring you along, right? And help you learn these new skills and these new ways of doing things to where you'll become comfortable with it. I would say don't ever be afraid to ask for help to a young person, especially in this field. GIS folks, in my experience, are very helpful and are always willing to share their knowledge and skills with the younger group. So it's been my experience. If you think you're afraid of Python programming, fine. Find that person that does it really well, and ask for a little bit of assistance. And I think, by doing, you become more comfortable. You expand your horizons. By jumping out of that comfort zone, you're going to, expand your capabilities and become more comfortable as time goes on. So
that's awesome. Well, Tom, this has been amazing. I'm really glad I got to talk to you, learn about your experience, learn how you've been serving the counties in Ohio with your nonprofit, and just what you guys are doing there at Cuyahoga for the current COVID situation. So this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
It has been. And hopefully the next time we talk, we're not in the middle of a pandemic.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Join us again in a couple of weeks for part 2, where we talk about evolving GIS technology, nonprofits, and how knowing your audience is one of the most important things in any industry.